I've learned from you that the annual sales here at Pennsylvania Scale are now back to the pre-recession level, and I'm very happy to hear that. My job and the job of the legislature is to make sure that the growth continues so that you can add new businesses, reach new businesses, and add new jobs. Pennsylvania Scale is the kind of place we had in mind when we drew up our new budget. You're the private sector. You're the one that creates the real prosperity. You're the one that really creates the jobs. In fact, manufacturing jobs here in Pennsylvania have risen to their highest number since 1991. And I understand that you're continuing, you here in Pennsylvania, Scales are going to continue to add to that. In the budget address back in February, I talked about how Pennsylvania is growing the kind of jobs to produce real wealth, private sector work. By keeping our taxes low and holding down government spending, this leaves more money in the part of the economy that creates the jobs best, the private sector. The budget now before the General Assembly makes some very difficult, hard choices, but it also makes some smart ones. I hope all of you here will ask the legislators to back this budget. It's built the way you here in business build your own household budget, business budget. You spend no more than you have. I know that when the recession was going on and your company wasn't earning as much money, management said, let's not spend any more. And in fact, you just told me you took some serious cuts and reductions in your own pay. I talk about changing the culture of state government all the time. And one aspect of that is to get the legislature to understand that we can't spend more than we have. A lot of people are surprised when they find out just where your state dollar, your individual tax dollars go, and how they really only go to a few places. And I understand when people say, well, Governor Corbett has to make education a priority. And my answer to people when they say that is, I think you will agree with me that where you spend the most money in the budget is your priority. Well, if you'll take a look at this dollar bill up here, education, K through 12 and higher education, gets 40.3 cents of every dollar. That's the priority. Behind that is the public welfare dollar. 38.9% goes to the public welfare in different areas that are covered by public welfare. 7.3% goes to corrections, probation, and parole. So that leaves us 13.4 cents of every one of your tax dollars to go to everything else we have to do in Pennsylvania except for transportation. That's not a whole lot. That's why I keep repeating. This is the priority. But when the dollar isn't growing, when there aren't more dollars, we can't give more money. Where would we take that? Would we go into this portion of the dollar? Would we go into this one? Would we go into this one? The same way with welfare. Where would we go? We have a choice, though. People say, well, you can raise taxes. Let's talk about that. If we would raise, to make up the difference in the budget, last year, if we would have raised the personal income tax here in Pennsylvania on the average family of four, it would have been $920 additional dollars to your tax line last year. How many of you want to pay $920 more? I don't see any hands going up. That's not how to grow an economy. Private sector is how we grow the economy. We've got to make the pie bigger. We can show the same thing of the dollars down here. Picture that pie. Let's make it a pizza pie. I think everybody likes pizza. How big a piece of that pizza pie is public welfare or education or probation and parole and all others? It's considerably, unfortunately, because of the recession, the size of the pie reduced. The size reduced. How we fix and get more money into education, welfare, and all these other areas is to grow the pie. And you don't grow it through adding taxes. You grow it through the private sector. And that's what I've been committed to throughout the course of this entire 15 months that I've now been governor. We need to spend our money. We need to spend it wisely. Consequently, we need to save. We need to reduce spending when we don't have the money. We need to look to where we can save money, where we can cut costs.
Governor, you talk about growing the proverbial pie, but it sounds like everybody, including the taxpayers, are going to have to tighten their belts. Can you?
Well, I think the taxpayers have been tightening their belts. They really have. We should be doing exactly what they're doing. That's what I'm calling on all government, including the people who receive state money. You've got to tighten your belt. You can't increase tuition 149% over 12 years while you've gotten $3 billion. That's not belt tightening as far as I'm concerned. And it's not easy. Nobody says it's easy. Everybody knows. I don't want to have to be doing this. But the last administration continued to spend. If we don't get our spending under control, we're going to continue to raise taxes. We raise taxes, the businesses are not going to grow. If the businesses don't grow, there aren't going to be the jobs there. So yeah, it takes some belt tightening.